everyone, my name is Janelle, and for this assignment, we had an opportunity to listen to a podcast. In the podcast, we were all assigned to listen to Unf Your Brain, the pandemic series with Kara. Basically, Kara just shared how we can manage ourselves mentally through challenging times like right now as we are facing a global pandemic. I personally thought this was a good refresher for people to remember not to necessarily drown themselves into the media, as it could leave a negative impact to one. And I feel like, as we know, the pandemic is a serious issue to this day that we are facing globally. Even though things may be getting better where we are in other places, people are still going through major hardships. And with that being said, I feel like it's still important to stay educated to what is going on in our community, in our society, in our world. Kara also talks about how our brain is sort of fixated and hyper focused to danger, as our brain has just evolved over time. And she kind of compares the news with COVID on the media, the social media, to danger, just because we know that the media gives us little news of what's the positive in our society or in our community. They mostly give out negative news, which is something that people levitate towards because they want to know what's the bad things. They want to know what the bad things are going on. And in other ways, I feel like the media is just basically feeding our brains into danger, even though it could be useful to know, but in a way, like I said, feeding ourselves to danger, just because in a way, it, like what Kara says, it seems like the primitive part of our brain is just being sucked into terrible news, just like with COVID, if you're constantly watching the news or constantly reading articles. And it's something that we may want to consider refraining ourselves from doing, just because it could put you in a negative state of mind. Like, it can make you more frustrated, anxious, nervous, scared. And with that being said, I want to emphasize it's still important to read the news, watch the news, just because it's important to stay educated. But Kara does recommend for us to do some things, like write a list of kind of our worries and thoughts that are processing through our minds. For instance, we can write a list of our thoughts about COVID, and after that, we can differentiate which is actually fact and which is kind of sort of like an opinion or kind of speculation, just so it could help practice, less stress on oneself. And I feel like also something that might be beneficial is just taking a step away from your phone sometimes, like giving yourself a break, like take a walk, drink some water, cook yourself some yummy food. And I feel like those are just good practices to just keep in mind, especially nowadays. And I feel like to this podcast, we can correlate to some of the concepts we learned from chapter 8, which is about emotions. And I feel like something that we can do is coping, which again in chapter 8 we kind of learned how it was managing our emotions. And with something like this, with like news outbreaking, it's always good to manage your emotions, just because you want to levitate yourself from stress. And with that being said, I really enjoy listening to this podcast, and yeah.